Respected Admiral Sri Harikumar Garu, who is the Chief of Navy Staff, other distinguished members from Navy, my very, very dear friend MSK Prasad, Mrs. Beg sir, and his family members, flag officers, friends from the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed an honor for me being amongst all of you this afternoon. And the reason I say is you all are the true superheroes and true inspirational figures, according to me, in our country. I've always mentioned in various interviews, whenever I discuss about inspirational figures, and I've got a habit of reading autobiographies, biographies of eminent people who have contributed to this world. But for me, no one better than the armed forces who inspire us day in and day out by their commitment, their passion, their discipline, the grit and determination they exhibit to safeguard our country. So it's indeed a real honor and privilege for me. And I think through this auspicious gesture by the head of Navy officers, that I'm getting an opportunity to spend time with all of you, even though it's going to be just an hour or so, but it's indeed a real honor. The legacy you all have left is something which has touched millions of Indians. And sometimes I always feel what is the relationship between all of you and the countrymen. And I always feel that it's the divine relationship. Because it's not necessary that you have blood relation with the entire countrymen. But for our safety, for the well-being of each one of us, you tirelessly work. And in circumstances and in conditions which are very, very challenging. So a big salute to each one of you and continue to inspire all of us. When I talk about inspirational figure, Beg sir is one of those figures who have inspired me in my life, not only as a cricketer or in my cricketing career, but as a person. I got inspired by just what MSK just mentioned. His selfless service to the cricketing fraternity. For 50 years, for him to tirelessly help and own the skills of young, aspiring, budding cricketers is a testimony to his dedication and commitment to this great game, cricket. As Ayman rightly mentioned, that Beg sir used to train a lot of young cricketers at the Fateh Maidan, which now is known as the Lal Bahadur Stadium. And I grew up in that area. I just lived behind Fateh Maidan. And as a youngster, I used to visit Fateh Maidan, to watch some international matches. And as a youngster, getting excited to go and watch the practice session which happens at Fateh Maidan. I used to go sit on the steps of the Fateh Maidan Stadium, and I used to see Beg sir teaching and imparting the cricketing skills to young budding cricketers, along with my childhood hero Mohammad Azharuddin. And I never knew that one day I will actually become a student. But it was my good friend Itesham who used to train under Beg sir, and this was when I was 17 years old. He introduced me to Beg sir. In fact, it was Beg sir who called me to come and meet him. This was after I represented at the age of 16 Hyderabad in the under 19 level, under 21 level, and Beg sir has heard through Itesham that I was a very committed cricketer, a very talented cricketer who always wanted to get better, and my passion towards the game is something which Itesham mentioned to Beg sir, and he wanted to see me. And since that day till the last day I played this game, Beg sir was one such coach I relied on. In fact, in the book I mentioned that he was like not a general physician, because I come from a medical fraternity, and we know that there's a general physician who takes care of the entire body. And then there are specialists, whether you call a cardiologist who takes care of the heart, you got neurologists, you got nephrologists. And for me, Beg sir is that specialist in the cricketing fraternity among the coaches I have train under. And he was that special coach. Especially when you play the game at the highest level, where there's so much of competition, there's so much of challenges, you want to go to a specialist coach who identifies the minutest of change which creeps into your game. And it was Beg sir who had that high, without the technology which the current day coaches are lucky to have. Just through his eyes, through his observation, is to identify the changes I made in my game, and straight away, in just a couple of sessions, he would get back the rhythm, which I probably was feeling that I was missing. And that was the speciality of Beg sir. But while being a super specialist coach, he also was like a general physician, taking care, and that audio visual showed that he was also helping and training the young budding cricketers who needed that basics, who needed to understand that basics is the foundation of achieving success in any walk of life, but definitely in the game of cricket. Because if your basic technique is strong, from there you can improvise, you can be very, very creative. So Beg sir emphasized that the technique is something which is very, very important, which is what he imparted to those young budding cricketers who trained under him. And then for elite cricketers like myself and MSK and all the other 29 cricketers who probably trained under him, he was able to find the minutest change and give those suggestions without us even realizing that there was something wrong in our technique. And that's the beauty of Beg sir, the elite coach. Lastly, he was a disciplinarian. He was someone who never ever compromised on discipline. And now I'm not surprised why he was like that. Because when he was my coach, I never knew that he was a former Navy staff. I never knew that he worked with Navy. But once you're in the armed forces, we know how tough you all are. We know that one thing which is non-negotiable for all of you is discipline. And he was very, very clear that for you to establish yourself as a cricketer, for you to progress in a cricketing career, which is very, very challenging, very, very tough, one thing which cannot be compromised is your work ethics and discipline. So I'm glad that he had a big influence on me, even from that aspect, because that's something which I try to exhibit in everyday life, and never ever compromise on work ethics or discipline or being committed to the passion or profession you are in. And that's something which I definitely advise to the young cricketers with whom I work. I think 56 years back was when he left the services. But for all of you to get together in your busy schedule to make sure that Beg sir's family, along with Madam here, understands the contribution of Beg sir to the cricketers, to the cricketing fraternity, I think this gesture is such an important one and very, very heartwarming. And I would, on behalf of the entire cricketing fraternity, salute all of you, thank all of you wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart for recognizing the contribution of Beg sir in the cricketing fraternity. Now, I would like to also thank, obviously, Prakash, as MSK rightly mentioned. In the last stages of Beg sir's life, it is very important for someone who has contributed and given so much to the game. People should give back to that personality, and that is what exactly Prakash has done. That is exactly what MSK has done. Obviously touched about what happened in 2019 when Beg sir was not well, and he just also mentioned in 5 days what was the contribution. I think the figure or the amount doesn't really matter, but just the intention of all his wards and the way they came forward straight away, to make sure that he was comfortable. And I think that intention is something which is remarkably admired. But Prakash and MSK have taken care of Beg sir like his own kids, or probably more than his own kids. So I think I would take this opportunity to thank both of them wholeheartedly for taking care and looking after Beg sir, and also to Hemant for writing the book. And if you read that book, which I was presented last night, I've gone through that, I've read the entire book. Obviously, it was each and every player who worked under Beg sir, each and every player whose lives were touched by Beg sir, their comments about Beg sir, their stories with Beg sir is documented in that book. And one thing which I didn't really like was and I can be very open, was the name of the book, The Unsung Hero. For me, he's not an unsung hero. He's a real hero. He's a real superhero in the game of cricket. Because sometimes in India, we feel that the recognition will only come when someone is recognized through awards. And I don't think so. That someone who has played the game, someone like all of you who's contributing selflessly in your profession, it's how many lives you have touched. And the lives you have touched, those people, are they grateful? Do they have gratitude to what you have done? And I think Beg sir has got n number of cricketers who are grateful and who recognize his contribution in their lives. That's why I don't think he's an unsung hero. For me, he's a real hero. Obviously, we can't change the name of the book, but that's the only thing which I didn't like about the book. But I want to take this opportunity to wish you and the book all the very best. And I'm sure that a lot of kids who read that book will be inspired. A lot of kids will understand the ideology of Beg sir, the cricketer, Beg sir, the coach. And I'm sure that will help them to shape their careers. And that's what we want. We want more and more budding cricketers to realize their potential and dreams. I would like to also wish the services team all the very best in all their matches going forward. I know the season has just been done. Wish you lots of luck and success in the upcoming seasons. And again, thank you very much, sir. It's a real honor. It's a real privilege for me to be amidst all of you. And what you have done today to all of us, not only to Beg sir's family, for the entire cricketing fraternity, is something which is unforgettable. And I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful, heartwarming gesture. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.